Hey, what's up? John Sonmez here from SimpleProgrammer.com. So I'm actually here in Boise, Idaho, and I am here to give the keynote for the Boise Code Camp, which is a somewhat special thing for me since I sort of started out really the change in my career, the shift in my career in Boise. Actually, Boise Code Camp was one of the places that introduced me to a gentleman named David Starr who got me started with Pluralsight, and that really was one of the things that helped me to take off and really change the trajectory of my entire life. So I thought what I would do is give the talk, or I'm kind of rehearsing the talk that I'm going to give at Boise Code Camp. I thought I'd record it and make a YouTube video of it here. Maybe I'll record the actual talk as well. I'm not 100% sure on that. I'll have to figure that out. But I thought I would walk through this because the talk is really entitled Coming Full Circle, My Journey from Software Development to Personal Development and What I Learned Along the Way. So I thought this would be just an interesting story to put on YouTube here. I'll probably skip the part about what I do today, but yeah, I'm kind of going to test out what I've got here. So my journey actually started in Boise Code Camp. Actually, the first the sessions I think I did at Boise Code Camp is I did a session on creating a custom title bar and footers in Android. And the reason why I had done this session was because I had just finished developing my first ever Android application, which was called Pacemaker at the time. Now it's called Run Faster or something. I had to change the name on it after a trademark dispute, but it was the first app that I'd ever really created start to finish and put in the App Store. And when I was at the Code Camp, I was actually doing some blogging at the time. I'd started my blog, and this was an opportunity for me to present what I was learning as building this Android app, which was pretty difficult right up to this point in time. I think I had not spent a lot of time. Like, I would have given up. Like, I wanted to not write this app when I started it. Just like so many people do, right? You have a project that you start and you don't want to finish it. It's exciting at first, and that what happened with this Android app. But I decided, no, I'm going to finish this thing. So I basically ended up finishing it, and it required creating custom title bars and footers to make it look like the designer that I was working with, like they wanted it to. And it was difficult. It was not fun at times, but every single day I devoted about an hour a day after work to working on this thing until it was done. And one day it was actually done, and I put it in the App Store, and that was just a great feeling. So anyway, there was a gentleman named David Starr who actually I had sort of known. I knew that he was popular in the blogging space. I'd read his blog a few times, and he had basically heard me talk, I think, at the Code Camp, heard that I was talking at the Code Camp, what I was talking about, had heard about my blog, a little bit that I was blogging, and that I knew how to build Android apps. I had taught myself how to build an Android app, and he was looking for someone to do a course, actually to build the Android app for Pluralsight and possibly do a course on Pluralsight. So of course, he approached me, and I applied for both of those things. Oddly enough, I was not selected to build the app for Pluralsight, which I was a little bit disappointed in, but it turned out to be a good thing. But instead, they asked me to do an audition or a demo for the Android course in Pluralsight. Pluralsight at that time was really just all .NET stuff, and they were looking to expand. So I actually got the opportunity. Dave Starr actually let me record the intro module on his house. I had no idea about how recording works or editing or anything. Kind of funny story there is that I basically had to one take. He was wondering why it took so long, right? So, he's got me set up with his microphone and his computer, and I'm recording the slides there because he's got a good mic set up. And it took me like 3 hours to record this 15-minute module. He's wondering what's taking me so long. And I didn't know about post-production. I didn't know anything about editing. I assumed that if you're going to record something, you have to do it in one shot. And so when I would screw up or I would say something wrong, I would start over from the beginning. So it took me a long time to get through about 15 minutes where there was basically no mistakes in it. And when I told him that, he said, "Oh, yeah, you just edit this out. Like you just record like a small segment, and then you can edit out ums and you edit out mess ups, and you end up stitching it together." So I had no idea. It was my first time using any kind of editing software. Once I found that out, it was pretty amazing that you could do this, and it sounds natural. Anyway, I ended up submitting the audition, and Pluralsight they liked it a lot, and they ended up commissioning me to do the first Android course for Pluralsight, which was sort of the start of really this whole adventure that changed my life. Now, I want to kind of give a big takeaway from here, like some lessons along the way here. So one of the big things that I learned there was how important it is to become a finisher. You see, up to that point in my life, I hadn't finished a lot of things. Maybe like I started a lot of things. I had a lot of projects that I started in my life, and I didn't always finish them. I was excited about them at first, right? How many side projects had I created? But this was the first time that I had actually forced myself to finish. And it really was a shift in my thinking. I really changed my whole thinking about the subject and said, if I'm going to start something in life, I'm going to finish it. And that has really been extremely valuable just in the rest of my career from that point forward. And I've always held that mindset, is because the thing is, like, if you don't finish something, if you're 90% of the way there, if you build a bridge 90% of the way, it's sort of useless. You don't get any benefit, but you've put in a lot of work. And so many of us spend so much of our time, we spin our wheels so much in our effort building, and not completing, not finishing. And so it's a wasted effort. It's like we never did anything in the first place because we don't get any of the benefits of having finished. And so creating that Android app was the first thing that I finished. I finished that first Android Pluralsight course. I ended up porting the Android app over to iOS, and I finished that. And I started writing my blog, and every week I was writing my blog posts, and I was finishing them, and that made a huge impact in my life. So then comes 2011. This is like around 2010. 2011, I had my first child. My daughter, Sophia, was born, and it sort of shook up my life a little bit. I wanted to finish up my first Pluralsight course just before she was born. It took me, I think, a couple of months to finish that Android course. It was a long course, and it was a lot of work, but I did finish it, right? And I got that done. And then when she was born, it sort of lit a fire under my butt, because I realized that, one, I was going to have less time, and that if I wanted to achieve the things I wanted to achieve in life, that it was going to have to happen. It was going to have to happen now, because life was going. It was, and now I had another mouth to feed. Now I had more responsibility. And so if I was going to go down some entrepreneur track, if I was going to build a business or do anything, I had to really work my butt off. So it really shifted my mindset. I went from, not that I was super lazy before, I'd conquered that earlier in my life, but I went from someone who was, somewhat motivated to extremely motivated. I realized how important that was. We decided that we would move up, or pack up and move to Florida to be near some relatives and to get out of the cold, to find the lovely, beautiful, warm, sunny beaches of Florida. Little did I know it would be extremely hot and humid during the summer and pretty much unbearable, but you get what you pay for. So we moved and packed up everything, drove to Florida with a four-month-old baby. And at that time, I was working for a company called Trackabout as a remote employee, so that was kind of nice. I was working full-time as a web developer and working on mobile development, compact framework.net stuff, and doing the Pluralsight stuff. So then comes 2012. This is the year of blogging, working out, and pumping out Pluralsight courses. So in 2012, when I moved to Florida, we moved into this small 2-bedroom apartment. I used to call it the bed office, because that's what it was basically I had to set up my whole office and recording studio in there. And I spent all my time in that bed office, right? I was working from home, first of all, for that company Trackabout. And then on top of that, when I was recording my Pluralsight courses, which I was doing every night, it was I was in there just recording those courses, and it was very tight, not very comfortable situation. I had to decide at that point too between doing apps or doing Pluralsight, and I chose Pluralsight, which was a wise choice. If I went the app route, I think it would have not been quite as successful. Pluralsight was just up and coming at this time. Remember, there's maybe like 40 courses or maybe 15 authors total. So it was just a great opportunity. It wasn't the company that it is now. It's so huge now. It's crazy. I got in really at the ground floor. But that's not really the secret to success. I'm going to get to that in a little bit. It really wasn't about the timing. It was about, well, there's two things that are really required for success. It's the timing, and it's taking advantage of the timing. It's the hard work at the right time. So you got to be there at the right time, but you also have to do what others aren't willing to do at that time. So when I was in Florida, my schedule, or I decided on my goal, and my goal was to create more courses than any other author. It was a pretty big decision. I was basically going to drop everything else in my life besides my work and my working out, and really no free time, no hobbies, nothing. Just I'm either going to work, working out, spending a little bit of time with my family, or I'm doing Pluralsight courses. That was what I dedicated myself to, because I realized that with the royalties, with this opportunity to generate some passive income, I could really set myself free in life. So my schedule was a little bit crazy at this time. I basically got up in the morning and I either ran or lifted weights. I was running about, I think, 3.1 miles, 5K, or lifting. And then I worked my regular job for 8 hours at home. Then I ate some dinner and I hung out with the family for about an hour or two. And then it was back to recording Pluralsight courses. So I'd record Pluralsight courses every night for 4 to 5 hours, pretty much. And then I would do blog posts every single week. And I did that day in and day out. Never missed a beat, never missed a day. It was tough, but but I did learn an important lesson, which I'll get to in a second here. But finally, on February 14th, 2013, I was able to quit my job. I was able to talk to my boss and say, look, I don't need the job anymore. And it was pretty awesome. The previous year, I had made $132,000 in Pluralsight royalties. That's royalties. That's not the course fees. That's just the royalties. It's just the passive income from those Pluralsight courses. I think I had done about 20 courses in that time, in the about 1.5 to 2 year time period. And I believe at that point I had more courses than any other author. So big lesson, the big takeaway for that year was consistency and persistence, and the power of consistency and persistence. Because the thing is, every day going in through that schedule, little by little, making progress, writing the blog posts, getting the Pluralsight course, making step by step every day, even after working, my regular job. Also the same thing with the fitness. I really made a lot of changes physically in that time, really improved my fitness level. It was just every day. It was consistency. It's persistence. It's such an important thing in life, is to be consistent and persistent. I think that's one of the most important things that I've learned for success, is that it's not like the heroic efforts, right? It's not going out there and running a marathon. It's going out there every single morning and hitting the pavement and running a few miles, or running 5 miles every day, instead of running one time an awesome 26 miles. That's great. It's great to do those heroic efforts, but they can't necessarily be sustained. And it's much more powerful to be consistent, to be persistent over time. To appreciate and understand that life is a grind, and you got to be able to grind. And a lot of people can't grind. They can't handle the grind. But once you can do that, the world of possibility really opens up. So that was the big lesson there, was that consistency, persistence. It pays off in life. So many of us want to give up. One other thing I'll say about that is that, you don't always have the motivation. It was hard to do that. I didn't feel motivated at times. I started to question what I was doing. And you have to realize that you've got to be able to work without motivation, because you're not always going to have motivation. Things are exciting at first. Again, part of being a finisher is realizing that you're just going to have to grind it out, and that's the price. That's the dues that you have to pay if you want to achieve your goals. If you want to reach success in life, you've got to be just got to be consistent. You just got to be showing up. The blog was also starting to grow at that time, and part of the reason why was because every week, I think I started out doing 3 times a week. I would consistently blog on a schedule, right? I never missed a beat. It was always, I never missed a blog post, and that was what led to the growth, really. So then after that came what I call the hell year. This was 2013. So remember, I'd quit my job February 14th, 2013. Basically, that year I'd given my announcement to quit my job, I think, in January, and February 14th was my last day. I track about my last day, hopefully ever in my life, as an employee working for someone else. The goal for that year was to create 30 Pluralsight courses in 1 year, basically 2.5 courses a month, 1 course every 1.5 weeks. Pretty insane. If you and we're talking like 3-hour, 2, 3, 4-hour courses finished, right? These are long. A lot of Pluralsight authors, it takes them a couple of months to build a course. So I was attempting to do 2.5 courses in 1 month, essentially. Like I said, 1 course every 1.5 weeks. I had to learn entire programming languages to do this. I learned in that and teach them, right? In that year, I learned Go from ground up. I learned Dart, I learned Lua, and I taught courses on all of those programming languages. I basically worked like a dog. It was insane. I started doing YouTube videos at that time as well. Not at the regular schedule that I do it now. I do 2 to 3 YouTube videos a day now, but at that time, I started doing the YouTube videos. You can go back in my YouTube channel and see what my early YouTube videos look like. I was doing blog posts every week still. I had a podcast called Get Up and Code that I had just started, and I was doing that weekly. And it was a lot of hell. It was very difficult. My schedule, I thought it was going to be easier because I wasn't working a full-time job, but actually became more difficult and more monotonous because all I was doing was working on these courses. And it was so difficult at times because, when I started doing Pluralsight courses, at first I was doing the stuff that I was very familiar with, right? Because I had just done Android development, so I knew Android. I just learned Android, and it took me a long time, actually. And I had just learned iOS, so I did a course on that. And I did IOC because I was familiar with that. These are my previous courses, and Entity Framework or enterprise application blocks, some of these courses that I knew. But I started to run out of those, right? I had to basically come up with ideas. I had a Trello board with like 60 course ideas. And for most of the courses, it was so difficult because I had to learn the thing that I was going to teach before I actually could teach it. So within that 1.5 week period, for example, in fact, what I would do is I would be pre-learning. So I'd be learning the stuff that I was going to record for the next course while I was recording the course. And I had a system in place, and I had templates, and I had a way that I was going to build that course. Then every day I planned out my schedule very meticulously. Every week I planned out my schedule, and I knew what I was going to do, and I had quotas for that week, and I knew how many modules I was going to get, when I was going to prepare slides, the process I was going to use to do that, and then the time that I was going to spend every day learning, because I had to really learn how to learn rapidly. I actually ended up building a course that I sell now called 10 Steps to Learn Anything Quickly, which is based off of this process. But it was difficult. It was not an easy time period. But I learned a lot from it about learning about myself, and it was really amazing to actually hit that goal. Now I had some sad times. There were a couple of my courses, so I ended up reaching my goal. Ended up getting 30 Pluralsight courses done in that year. I actually finished early and took December off, and I actually had, I think, about 2 or 3 courses that were rejected by Pluralsight. And this was hard. This was one of those things where it was a pivotal moment, right? It was very, very painful, if you can imagine, to work on a course. I mean, even if it's, you might say, oh, it's only a week and a half, but a week and a half of your life, of your work, when you're working 12-hour days, and then it's rejected, is really devastating. And I hit the point. I remember when my first course got rejected, and not for any good reason. I had built this thing. I felt like there was some politics involved. I felt like it was a very quality product, but I had to accept it. I had to just, not cause a big ruckus. I of course tried to fight it, but once I realized that, I had to make a choice as either going to continue to have a relationship with this company and this opportunity and pursue it and swallow my pride a little bit, eat a little bit of humble pie, or I was going to, fight it and throw up my arms and say that's not fair and cry about it and miss out on the opportunity. So I decided to suck it up, and I sucked it up 2 or 3 times. Each time it was extremely painful, but that's the price. That's what you got to be able to do. So I did, and I accomplished the goal. That ended up actually being the last Pluralsight courses I did. I have 55 Pluralsight courses now. That was adding those 30 to the 25 that I had. I had 30 that were published. I'd actually done, I think, 33 courses that year. Like I said, I think 3 of them were rejected, but yeah, that was amazing, and the royalties just started really coming in at that point. It was just an astronomical ascent of that opportunity. I mean, I think when I had 55 courses at that time, when I finished it, I think the closest that anyone had was somewhere in the maybe 28 courses. So I had more than double of the second most prolific author. So the big lesson there was the power of being prolific, right? I learned that year in 2013 as I produced all those Pluralsight courses. And not only produce Pluralsight courses, but the blog posts and the YouTube videos. And later on with the YouTube videos, I learned, I applied that same lesson. But with Pluralsight there, I learned how important it is to be prolific. That if you are extremely prolific, right, in whatever you're doing, whether it be blogging or writing code or making apps or making YouTube videos or doing Pluralsight courses in this case, that's where the huge benefit is. There's like this huge benefit, and some of it is just because you have such a wide surface area, right? The more things that you create, the more that you're going to benefit from them. They all sort of, especially things that create passive income or that have long-term benefits for you. All of those blog posts, all of those YouTube videos, all of those Pluralsight courses, all of those things are continually generating a benefit for you long into the future. So it's a very cumulative effect. But it's not only that, it's also that the more that you create, the more prolific that you are, what ends up happening is you become better. It becomes easier for you to produce the thing. You start to build systems, right? And you get the economy of scale, right? Because since you're building so many things, when I was building all those Pluralsight courses, when I was doing one course every 1.5 weeks, I was able to build systems in place that, at first it was really, really difficult, but it became easier. It became to the point where I knew what to do. I had this template. Okay, I have got these slides. I know I'm going to create this 5-module course, and I was able to create a system out of it. And I think you'll see this if you look at the writings of many extremely prolific authors or any prolific person. You'll see patterns. You'll see templates that they use. My daughter was reading this book series called The Magic Treehouse, right? And the author of that, she's extremely prolific, right? But she follows this exact formula. Each one of the books is formulaic, right? She's developed a template for doing this, and that's how she's able to be so prolific. And being so prolific has forced her into that, and it makes her a lot more efficient. She can accomplish things and get things done a lot faster than most people can. So there's a huge power in being prolific for multiple reasons. And so I would encourage you that, and what I learned from this is that you should be prolific if you possibly can. It's so much, there's so much more of a benefit. You get this synergistic effect when you produce a lot of things, and I'm seeing that now here on YouTube as I do so many videos. Also, if you might have noticed, right, I speak pretty well, right? I went to one Toastmasters class. I never learned how to not say and how to continue to speak and have my thoughts flow and to be able to talk on the fly. I did it by sucking, by being prolific, by creating so many YouTube videos, by talking so many times that I got good at it. Not that I can't grow. I can improve. Of course I can. But I got to this stage by being prolific. So next we've got 2014. This is the year of a book deal and a shift. At this point, up to that point, I was doing mostly technical content, right? For Pluralsight, I had done some very little bit of soft skills type of content. I was writing a lot of soft skills type of things on my blog, which were becoming the most popular blog posts. But I started doing some talks on marketing yourself as a software developer because my career was taking off. I was doing really well, and a lot of it was the marketing, was the blog was bringing me opportunities. I was out there on podcasts. I was figuring out how to get my name out there and how to build a reputation, and there was just so much benefits. I was getting offers for jobs and just all these opportunities that I had never seen before in the other 15 years of my career as a software developer, so I wanted to share that. So I started giving talks on how to market yourself as a software developer and talking about that topic, and it was extremely popular. Every time I would give a talk, people would come up to me afterwards and we'd talk for several hours, big crowds, because they'd never heard this kind of stuff before. And I was realizing that was the same stuff that was the most popular on my blog, as most popular on my YouTube channel. So I ended up doing a book deal with Manning. Manning was trying to pitch me on doing a book on mobile development for a while, and finally they had a new acquisitions editor, and we had this discussion. And I said, no, you know what? I'm not going to write a book unless I'm going to write the book that I want to write, and I want to write a book about life, a software developer's life manual. I want to write a soft skills book, and I want to talk about all the things that are important in life, the lessons I've been learning, from career to learning things quickly to personal development to real estate and finance and fitness and all of those things that I feel like benefited me and makes a well-rounded developer, well-rounded person, and makes you more successful in life rather than just technical. I wanted it to be an evergreen book. And I sort of gave that pitch and held my breath, and Manning said, yeah, let's do it. We'll give you a shot. No, so I was pretty excited. I was going to get to write my book, and that was the conditions under which I felt it was beneficial to write a book. So that deal was inked, and I shifted my focus completely from technical to soft skills. Changed Simple Programmer. Simple Programmer was no longer going to be about tutorials and technical stuff, although it would have some of it, but it was going to be focused on improving you as a developer. That was really what the focus became. I ended up creating my first course for Simple Programmer that year in 2014. Called How to Market Yourself as a Software Developer. I still sell it now. I think I launched that course and I sold about $20,000, maybe $25,000 of it in the first couple of days from a small mailing list that I had of maybe like 3,000 or 4,000 people that was on my list, which I thought was big at the time, but it's not. I've got about 60,000 people on my email list now. But that was just amazing shift. Like, it just shifted my mindset in terms of you could make money online. You could build a business. This little blog that I was hoping that might make me a few $100s a month someday and help me pay my mortgage could actually become a real business, and people really wanted this stuff. I also started a podcast called On to Programmers, which I still maintain today, which is a mastermind group where I meet with a few other developer entrepreneurs every week, and we've actually spawned off other on-to-programmer groups from that. I won't get into that now because it's a long story, but finally I ended up writing the book. So I divide my year up into quarters. The first quarter I ended up doing the How to Market Yourself as a software developer course and launching that and figuring out how to sell things online and market things and build landing pages and sales pages and all of that fun stuff and take credit card payments. And then the second part of the year, I think it was Q2 or maybe Q2 and Q3, because I did some editing. I ended up writing soft skills. It took me about 3 months to write soft skills, and then some time to edit it. And then I took a 2-month vacation to Hawaii, stayed in Maui for 2 months. Finally rewarded myself. Finally started to see the benefit of this lifestyle of quitting my job, of the passive income that was coming in, of being a business owner. It really was a huge shift for me. I almost thought I was going to just retire and be done. I was testing that out, but I decided, no, I've got too much in me. I can't just sit on the beach all day. At that same time, I started eating 1 meal a day. It was sort of a weird thing. I was making really good fitness progress. I didn't want to get fat, and I was already doing some intermittent fasting and saw the benefits of that. And so I said, well, what if I extend this? What if I just ate one meal a day? Then I could go out and eat when I was in Hawaii, not every night, but on some nights, and I could still maintain my fitness level, and I wouldn't get fat. Because the thing I didn't want to do was go to Hawaii for 2 months and come back and be fat. That was not a sustainable lifestyle for me, to like go somewhere and travel and then come back and reverse all everything that I had done. And so that was pretty much. And then also in that year, the other thing I was doing was I was reading a lot of really good personal development books. This is sort of the start of me going into that. I read a really good book called Psycho-Cybernetics, which changed a lot of my view. It really talked about how your self-perception, your self-image, is what determines how you act and how you become. And you have to change that image. And you can program and change that self-image yourself if you want to change. I read another really good book that was by Tony Robbins called Awaken the Giant Within, which again, very much about changing yourself, choosing your life, your values, and was a very big eye-opening book, and turned me on to Tony Robbins, who's really someone who I highly respect. I read another book that was really weird called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and I didn't want to read this book. It just was weird, right? Just kind of crazy new age stuff. But you know what? I found a lot of value in it. I opened my mind, and I started saying, you know what? Maybe there's some truth to some of this stuff. Maybe I don't have to like just totally subscribe to everything. But maybe there's some of this, I was a very analytical engineer person up to this time. So this was woo-woo crap, right? I was becoming a woo-woo person. But I was growing and transforming like never before. My mind was opening up. The limitations that I had, my personality, my self-development, I was changing and I was growing and I was becoming so much more than I was before. I was conquering my fears. I was conquering all kinds of things. In fact, that year, with the help of that mindset change, up until then I was afraid to fly since September 11th, and I was afraid of roller coasters. I was afraid of a lot of things. So I won't go into I've done a whole talk on this, but basically fear was taking over a large portion of my life. It really was. It was shrinking down the amount of life that I had to live, and I had actually at one point in Boise here, when I was working, I had a panic attack and just almost literally lost my life from this anxiety that I was suffering from. I could not function for about 2 weeks. But that year, I got on airplanes. I learned how to conquer my fears, and I could tell you about that if you're interested. I can tell you about how to conquer my fears. I think I've done some videos on that here. In fact, yeah, I know on the YouTube channel. Let's point to, since I'm giving the talk, but I know that we're here on YouTube, so it's kind of a little bit weird. But you can check out the YouTube videos on conquering your fear. I'll eventually do a course on this, by the way. But I started conquering my fears. I got on airplanes. I got on roller coasters. I got on the craziest ass roller coasters that I could find, and I loved it. I enjoyed it. Every single time that I felt a fear, I went after it, and I faced it head on. I realized that courage, see, up to that point in time, I thought a couple of things. One, that fears would just go away. Okay, and then two, that courage was something that happened when the fear resided. But what I learned was that that's not true. That what it is, that courage is always action in spite of fear. That there must be fear in order for there to be courage. And so if you want to be courageous, you must also have fear, but you must face that fear. And now I live my life in such a way that I face my fear. So a big lesson there was really that two things here. Like I said, I already talked about the fears, that you need to conquer your fears and face them. Otherwise, it will take over your life and it will destroy your life. Right? We know people who have done that. Maybe in your own life, your fears have destroyed and conquered your life. Maybe you're afraid to talk to people. You're afraid to go out there and put yourself out there and to do the things that, it's sometimes scary to get on the stage and do that. But is that holding you back? The other thing the other big lesson here was that limiting beliefs hold you back, right? I I was an analytical engineering person. Didn't believe in any of this crappy nonsense, psycho-cybernetics and Tony Robbins and the power of now and all this crazy new age crap. But you know what? When I opened my mind to it, when I and not that I just drank the Kool-Aid blindly, but I realized that I had these limiting beliefs that were holding me back in my life, and that's a lot of the message of that is. And I was able to expand beyond my shell. I had done some transformation already. My life had changed drastically, but deep inside, I think there was still a lot of me that was in bondage, right? That was in cage, right? From fear, from all of these limiting beliefs that I had on myself, that I believed the kind of person that I could be, or that I was, or that my own limitations. And once I realized that those beliefs were holding me back, and we all have those, we all have limiting beliefs. And the more that you can conquer those limiting beliefs, the more amazing that life becomes. As one of them was just amazing of seeing that you could sell something online, that you could make money, that I could build a business out of this, that someone would buy something that I had created, that I could sell it, that I could be an entrepreneur. That was a limiting belief. I was afraid to call myself an entrepreneur, right? Even now, it feels a little bit weird, but I am. I'm clearly an entrepreneur now. I mean, I have a business. I employ people, right? So that's a lesson there. So then we get to 2015, the year of building a team. So there were some dark moments there. With 2015, I thought about giving up on Simple Programmer. Basically, I was doing everything myself. That persistence and that grind I talked about, well, it was grinding on me, because after several years of writing blog posts every single week, doing all these YouTube videos, doing all the stuff to maintain editing, I was editing podcasts, I was doing all kinds of stuff. I felt like I was losing my passion, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep doing this. I said, well, why did I do all this work? Why did I build up this empire? Why did I do all this investing if I don't have any freedom? I'm an entrepreneur. I have success, but I'm bound to my job. I've created a prison for myself. But I found a solution. So I read a book by Michael Gerber called The E-Myth Revisited, and that saved Simple Programmer. That saved me quite a bit, because I didn't realize, I was basically doing things myself. So, and this book talks about how important it is to not be the technician, to be the entrepreneur in the business, to hire other people, to let go, to delegate. and it really rocked me and impacted me. So after that, I realized I needed to build a team, that I couldn't just do this all by myself, and I couldn't grow. I ended up hiring a virtual assistant from the Philippines for, I think, $1,000 a month. It actually wasn't even that expensive, right? And he was full-time, worked for me, and I ended up hiring an editorial team for the blog and a transcriptionist. The VA from the Philippines I ended up eventually firing. He didn't quite work out so well, but he did work out for the time, for the time period. He did do a lot of stuff, took a ton of stuff off of my plate. I started coming up with standard operating procedures for everything that I was doing. I tried to figure out a process, and I wrote it down and figured out how I could hand it off, and how I could, could I create the YouTube videos, and then that'd be it. And that's what I do now, is I create the YouTube videos, and I have an awesome editor, Rodrigo, who handles that, everything from there, and handles a lot of stuff, and handles the email. And so I've got systems in place, and I've got people that are helping to do this, right? Simple Programmer wouldn't be what it is today without those people. But that's where I made that shift in mindset, and that was awesome. In fact, it was so awesome that it allowed me to travel Europe for 3 months. I did home exchanges, and I went from, and I've got all the videos here on the YouTube channel. If you search, I think there's a playlist on my travels, but I went from Paris to Berlin to Ireland, Dublin, and Bruges, and Amsterdam, and then London, and Iceland. It was just an awesome experience and trip. And the reason why I was able to do that, when I traveled for those 3 months, I only worked Fridays, basically. I did some email and stuff on some other days, but Fridays for 3 months, I worked. That was my work day. And the reason why I was able to do that was because I had this team. Because now I had an editorial team that was helping me with blog posts, getting the blog posts out. I had someone that was helping with my email. I had someone that was editing my videos and getting all that stuff ready, and so that I could do I could be free. I could run the business, and really I wasn't always in the business. It wasn't dependent on me all the time. And even today, right? Even though I'm technically the face of Simple Programmer and I make the videos and I do all that stuff, I can queue them up in advance, right? And I don't necessarily have to be here. I have to be here to grow the business, but I don't have to be here to keep it running. It can, my team, my awesome team, can keep it running now. So at that time, I also started publishing more YouTube videos, eventually 2+ a day. That's what I'm doing now. And at the end of that year, in 2015, I attended my first Tony Robbins event, Date with Destiny. I've got the video here, but it was awesome. It was a life-changing. It was the final metamorphosis from my analytical engineering mind to being fully sucked into the personal development, woo-woo, new age crazy person that I am now. But it really did transform things for me, and I was able to see a lot of things about myself and about other people, and I was still holding a lot of limitations. I was still seeking external validation a lot. I was still putting expectations on people and letting them put expectations on me, and I was still holding back in a lot of ways for myself. My own masculinity was really not, it was really watered down. I was not embracing it. I was afraid of it to some degree. So there was a lot of big lessons there. But for that year, the big lesson for that year was you can't do it alone. Delegate. I learned the power, just like how awesome it is to have someone else doing it, and to realize that the only way you're going to get things done exactly how you want them done is to do it yourself. But you don't have to have them done exactly how you want them done. There's a level that is good enough, that is high quality enough, and some people can do things better than you can too as well, right? That's the other thing, is that it just because it's how you want it done, exactly how you want it done, or how you would do it, doesn't make it the best way. And so as an entrepreneur, as someone who really wants to be successful, if you really want to be successful, what I learned was that you have to leverage. You have to use other people. You have to delegate tasks. You have to do that. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to grow. You can only handle so much yourself, and you're going to burn out, and you're going to feel the weight of it, and you're going to create a prison for yourself. So there's a huge power in leverage. There's a huge power in delegation. That was the big lesson there. Then finally, we get to 2016, which is the year of personal growth, is what I entitled this. There was a quote that stuck out for me from the Tony Robbins event. I've mentioned this a lot of times, but it's such an awesome quote that really changed things and really opened up a lot of my life, which was, the quality of your life is in direct proportion to the amount of uncertainty you can comfortably live with. That really shook me to the core and really changed my life, because up to that time I was building a fortress. I was basically trying to make it so that I was physically impenetrable, I was financially impenetrable, that nothing bad could happen. If you've ever watched what's that movie, like Final Destination, I think it's like 2, where he goes into this cabin in the woods and he like sets everything up because he's supposed to die, like something is supposed to, so he like just tries to duct tape everything to the walls and get rid of all sharp objects and tries to make it as safe as possible. That's what I was doing with my life, and I was losing the passion, I was losing the excitement and the joy of my life. I was going through some periods of depression at times, and that was wise, because I was trying to eliminate all the uncertainty. I was trying to protect myself against that. I started to really get into Stoic philosophy at that time as well, which really helped me to break that mindset. So I stopped building the fortress. I said, you know what, I'm just going to take life as it is. If bad things happen, I'll just deal with it. If good things happen, that's great. But I'm not going to spend my life trying to make everything level and keel. I'm going to take some risk. I'm going to take some chances. I'm going to do that again. It's okay, because that's what life is meant to be. So I moved to San Diego. I stopped. Florida was safe. It was so cheap. There was no property taxes, right? The housing was cheap. I wasn't comfortable. I wasn't happy there, but I was enduring, because it was a wise, smart choice. I said, no, I moved to San Diego. I'm going to enjoy my life. I'm going to go and I'm going to live on the beach. So I bought a house on the beach in San Diego, not on the beach, but like 6 blocks from the beach, right? And that's what I did. And I started changing the way I approached life, especially after that Tony Robbins event. I stopped caring what other people thought about me and what I was doing. I really stopped caring. I found my purpose in life. I did this video on finding your purpose, and I found that my purpose in life was to learn everything I can, simplify it, and share it with others. That means that no matter what I was doing in life, I was going to be doing those things, whatever role I was, and you couldn't stop me from doing it. That was the thing that's my purpose. That's what I live for. And that gave me something to live for, right? Rather than just making money, right? I had this goal up to that time about just making enough passive income to retire, and I'd reached that goal, and then I was like, well, what do I do now? Sit on the beach? No, I still have that passion. I still have that purpose in my life. I'm going to fulfill that. That's why I focus a lot on these YouTube videos. That's what Simple Programmer's purpose is now. It's an extension of my purpose. I took on a business partner in 2016 to grow Simple Programmer, Josh Earl, who some of you know. Really, it was a risky thing, right? I'm going to pay this guy. I'm going to give away potentially half of my business, going to pay this guy, a few $1,000s, like $6,000 a month at the time, right? I mean, Simple Programmer wasn't making a lot of money. I was paying him more money than I was making, and basically all the profits from the business when we started. In fact, yes, all the profits from the business, maybe even more so than that, right? It was a very risky type of thing, but I believed in it. I believed that together we could grow it, and we did. We ended up growing the revenue to $30K a month. For Simple Programmer, it's over $30K a month now. Now before all of you get dollar signs in your eyes, it's not profit, but it's impressive. I'm happy with that accomplishment. That's pretty awesome, and we're going to continue to grow it. Right now, I'm able to pay myself a paycheck and pay him a paycheck and pay my employees paycheck, and it's great. So then I also started in 2016 writing my new book, which is called The Complete Software Developer's Career Guide. I actually finished that book in 2016. I'm going to be publishing it this year. And that was, I didn't know I was going to write another book. It's actually bigger than soft skills. It's like 200,000 words. 2016, I started running a lot more. I really I had some limiting beliefs about how far I could run and what I could do. I started running 40 miles a week. That's what I do now is I run 40 miles a week. I ran 3 half marathons. Something I never thought I'd ever do. YouTube exploded, right? With new content. I changed direction. I started dropping F-bombs on the YouTube channel. I just basically said, you know what, I'm going to polarize. I'm going to be me. I'm going to go to the extreme. I'm going to not hold back, right? I'm going to be as genuine and authentic as I possibly can, because that's what's important. It's not, I don't care if I offend people or piss some people off. That's fine. They're not my people, right? You guys who are listening, you are my people, right? And so, yeah, and YouTube exploded because of that. Right now we're at 76,000 subscribers. We're going to hit 100,000 easily in 2017. So my big lesson for that year was not to be afraid to polarize people. Don't be afraid to polarize people. Don't be lukewarm. And in all areas of your life, right? That means with external validation, don't care what people think. You just got to do you, right? You got to believe in yourself, right? Other people are going to give you comments, and they may be good. It might be good feedback. I've talked about this before, but ultimately you've got to make the decision, and you've got to choose what's right for you, and you got to do you. You've got to do that, and it's going to polarize people, but that's great, because you want the people that are really in your corner, right? I know a lot of you that are watching this video, you're on my side. You love what I do, right? You're not well, the John guy kind of, right? Most of those people are gone. I know some of you are still around, but that's awesome. That's what I want. I want people that support. If you're not in my corner, that's fine. I don't have to be your enemy, but I want the people in my corner, and that in my life, not just in YouTube, but in my life, right? If you're going to constantly put expectations on me and want me to be this and bring me down, then get out of my life. I'm sorry, but that's fine. Maybe we can still be acquaintances, but we're not going to be close friends. We're not going to be hanging out. I'm not going to be taking it negatively. I'm not going to take the expectations that you put on me. I'm not going to allow you to guilt me or to do anything like that. And I'm not going to put expectations on you. I'm going to live my life. I'm going to let you live yours. I'm not going to, we're going to be friends, or we're going to be in each other's company or presence because we want to be, not because we're obligated, right? I've gotten rid of obligation. So that was really the big lesson there. And that's it. So now we're, 2017. I've got more lessons to learn. I'm back in Boise. I've come full circle from, it's kind of amazing, to think about that, from where I was, and I've left out some details. Obviously, there's a long story. I was overweight at one point in Boise. I remember going to my job and being 100 pounds heavier, and just things have drastically changed, right? From the last time I was here, totally different person, totally different personality almost, right? I've shattered so many limiting beliefs. I've changed my fitness. I've changed how I look. I changed how I talk. My checkbook has gotten bigger. Not that, but it has, right? I've built a business. I'm running a business. I no longer am burdened by the things that I was burdened emotionally, right? I've set myself free in a lot of ways. I still got a long way to grow. So a couple of final takeaways here that I'll give, and I'm not going to really elaborate on these, but just a little bit of inspiration for the day here. 1, challenge yourself. Grow. Make sure that you're growing. If you're not growing, you're dying, as Tony Robbins always says. Don't fear obstacles. Face them. Confront obstacles, right? Don't try and go around them. Go through them. Realize that you'll become stronger by doing it. Don't wish for things to be easier. Very similar. I've talked about this before, but you'll grow. You'll become stronger. Don't wish things were easier. Making things easier doesn't help you. Them being tough and that's what helps you. That iron sharpens iron. Look in the mirror. Honestly evaluate yourself. I've talked about this a lot. Obviously, if you've seen some of my videos on this, it's really important. Really important to take a real, honest look in the mirror and see it all, blemishes and all, and not judge yourself harshly, but realize it. Be objective. Compare yourself to yourself. Again, when you do that, when you look in the mirror, don't look at Elon Musk and don't look at famous people and people who are more successful than you. Judge yourself. Judge yourself against yourself. Who were you yesterday? Who are you today? Compare yourself to the version of yourself you were yesterday, a year ago, 5 years ago. That should be improving. That's what you're valuing yourself against. Hold the line. Don't just give up. Don't just fly off the rails and let the ball roll back down the hill. Okay, you got to hold the line. You got to be able to tread water at times. You can't just, you're going to mess up at times and you're going to screw up. And the key thing about success is that when you screw up, you limit the damage. You do damage control. That's the name of the game. The most successful people in life are not the people that necessarily can push the hardest. It's the people that fall back the least. I've done plenty of videos on that. Don't let anyone tell you what you can and can't do or what you're qualified for. This is one of the ones that pisses me off if you've seen me get pissed off on this channel. But don't let them. Don't let someone say, "Oh, you're not a psychologist," or "You haven't studied anthropology," or "You don't have a PhD." Well, fuck you. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do, and don't let other people tell you what you can and can't do and that you're not qualified. Don't let them hold you back. You just do you. Don't seek external validation. I've already covered this one, but don't. Internal validation, yes. External, no. If you do, you'll be needy. You'll be a pleaser. You'll not be liked. You'll not like yourself. Don't have expectations on others, and don't allow them to have expectations on you. Again, I covered this a little bit, but it's so critical. We live so much of our life in obligation to others and trying to obligate others to us, and it's slavery. Love is free. Live your life like it's the only one you've got, because it is. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. This is kind of a long talk, but it'll be fun to deliver this. I'm a little bit over time. I think it's will be I'll have to shave it a little bit at the event, but let me know what you think. If you haven't subscribed already, click that subscribe button, and I'll talk to you next time. Take care.